Good evening, chaps, and welcome back to Dwarf Fortress, more specifically Glazed, which is the fortress we've been working on. So this is episode 5 of the series, and I hope you guys are all having a great week, or have had a great week, depending on when this video comes out. So today I wanted to look at starting to work on some better equipment for the military, which we're going to start to set up soon, which is going to need some work on our metal industry, which we've just set up down here. And then once we've got some of that set up and on the go, going to have a look at the kitchen, which I think is here. Yep, going to have a look at the kitchen, start getting some better quality meals out, which should improve the mood of our dwarves. And then after that, finally, I think set up a bookkeeper. I mentioned that in the last episode. That's something that probably should have had a little while ago, really. So just going to pop him in one of these workshop areas for now as a bit of a temporary stopgap till we get a more permanent arrangement. And then going to show you the irrigation system for the farm down here. So we've had a little bit of progress on that, although we did run into a bit of difficulty, so I'll give you a bit of an update on that. So starting off with equipment for the military then. So we've got the furnace here, the wood furnace, we've got the smelter, and then up here we've got the metalsmith's forge. So first of all, I just want to improve the speed at which this industry is going to work. So that's just a wood stockpile, so that wood furnace has got something right next door to use to make charcoal. So at the moment we're having to convert wood, we're basically burning it into charcoal as you would in real life, and then that's what we're having to use for fuel. So later on in the game, if you find magma deep underground, or for example if you're on Embark with a volcano, you can get it quite early. You can use the heat of the magma to power some of this stuff, which is quite cool, so hopefully we'll have that eventually, but for now we're stuck with charcoal. You can also find, I can never say this word properly, bituminous coal underground. We haven't actually found any yet, so we're just using wood, but we've got stacks of it. Got quite a heavily wooded Embark area, so that's fine. The only caveat, guys, something to be aware of, although most people end up doing it on purpose eventually, is if you cut down too many trees, it angers the elves. So if you're worried about that sort of thing, maybe try not to go completely crazy on cutting down the trees. So for the smelter, that's obviously going to take in the charcoal, and it's also going to take in the ore. So we're going to want a stockpile here we'll disable that. So we're going to want one for the ore itself, which is in stone. Come across. So you've got enable, disable on these main ones on the left, and then once you go within, it then splits it up further, and then right down to the individual materials. So I've just enabled stone, shows you the different options here. So we've got the metal ores, so these are all the different ores you can get in the game. We're using a lot of magnetite. I think malachite is also an iron ore, hematite is, I think limonite is, and then you've got stuff like silver, copper, gold, platinum, other things like that. Economic, so there's the bituminous coal that I spoke about, and you've also got flux stone, so that's how you create steel in this game. The flux stone, I sort of think of it as purifying the ore into steel, but I guess it's just part of the reaction. Other stones, so this is what we're using generally. We've got sandstone in the fortress, and then clay. So I don't think we've actually found any clay yet, and the way clay always worked when I last played is that it was effectively soil, so you could farm straight away, but from one single clay square it was effectively unlimited, which I think was a little bit broken really, but you know, it is what it is. So we'll forbid all those. We've just got metal ores left. At the moment I'm not too fussed about having them all allowed, because we've only got iron ore as far as I know anyway, so that makes no odds. So that's that one. And then I'm going to do another one here So it's just the Q button once you've placed the stockpile, guys. Press S and then disable animals, and this is going to be for the charcoal. So charcoal's actually in bars and blocks, so if we enable that, see if we can find it. There it is there. So forbid, 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 and then we'll come across here. Oop, didn't mean to do that. So we've just left coal there. So I think coal on here will cover all the different types of coal, whether it's charcoal that you've made from the wood burner or coal that you've mined yourself. I believe that's the case. So we're already making quite a bit of charcoal there. Just make sure that's full. And then on here, so you can see when you come into the smelter, you've got all the different types of ore you can smelt, and it's quite handy actually on this because it reds out things that you can't currently make. And then if we go on something like, yeah, so we've got magnetite, so we'll just smelt a whole load of that. Cool. And then if we come up here, this is the Metalsmith's Forge. Quite a versatile workshop, as I mentioned previously. So in terms of armour, we've obviously only got iron at the moment. So the way armour works in this game is obviously the material has an impact, but also these different items cover different parts of the dwarf. So the mail shirt's a really great place to start, guys. What I'd recommend, that's going to cover their entire body. I think it covers their upper arms and also their upper legs as well. So we'll start with one of those, and then to cover the lower legs we're going to need, we'll go for boots. So I think we need 2 of them. So greaves, I'm just trying to remember, guys. I think greaves cover upper and lower legs, but because upper legs are already covered by the mail shirt, if we just do boots, then that's going to cover the lower leg and the shirt will cover the upper. So I think we'd just be doubling up with greaves. And I think in that case, I don't think it would give you any extra protection. I could be wrong there, so I'd need to double check that. And then we need a helmet for the head, obviously. And then we're also going to make a shield. So iron's a reasonable metal to use. It's not the greatest. Obviously steel's a bit better, and ideally we'd want to be making this out of steel, but we need to try and find some flux stone. So I think this embark was supposed to have flux stone. We haven't actually found any yet, and I was reading online somewhere that there was a bit of a bug at some point with the pre-embarkation screen showing flux stone when actually there wasn't. So I'm hoping we do find some, otherwise we might have to look to trade for that, which could be a bit of a nuisance. But we'll make do with iron for now, that's not a disaster. And then we'll go weapons, iron again, and we'll make a warhammer. So we're just going to get one set of armour with the warhammer going for now. Hopefully the dwarf's going to vaguely look like the little chap in the video thumbnails. So that's the sort of thing we're going for. So the warhammer, I always just think it's a classic dwarven weapon for Dwarf Fortress. So the different types of weapons you get in this game basically split into 4 categories. You've got slashing, piercing, crushing, and you've also got range, so that's your crossbows principally. And of course we're going for crushing, so something like a warhammer's better against armoured opponents. So if we get a siege of goblins, they'll probably have armour of some description, so it should be quite good. Whereas something like a battle axe, for example, is going to do a lot more damage to an unarmoured opponent. I think really once you start getting into the game a bit further along, once you've got a reasonable fort population, I think once sieges are coming through, you're really gonna benefit from blunt weapons. But we'll see how we go on that. We might want to mix it up a bit as we get along. Cool. So for the warhammer, because it's a blunt weapon, the principal property of the material that's important is the density. So the best weapons actually, the best warhammer is actually made out of platinum, which is a really dense metal. And then I think steel and silver are roughly similar, both quite dense. And then just below that you've got basically the rest of the metals. You've got your copper, you've got your bronze and iron, which is what we're using. But I think a dwarf in full iron armour with an iron warhammer and shield should still make quite light work of goblins once they've got some training. So we'll see how that goes. Cool. And then so something else I want to do, guys, is just start to get some bolts going. So I think right now, okay, so we actually just had a thief. So that'll be a kobold thief, won't it? Yep. So you can see he's been spotted and now he's making a break for it from the fortress. And he's gone. So I have had a bit of trouble with thieves in the past, but when you've got a lot of dwarfs around like this, they're going to get spotted quite early like that chap did. And that's really going to be the end of it. Sorry, so if we just come back down to the industrial area. So we're going to get some metal bolts, because I think if we get attacked now, before we got interrupted by the thief, if we get attacked now, all we've really got going for us is about 5 stonefall traps, which are very ropey at best, frankly. We've got a couple of very skilled marks dwarves who are the hunters, so we could draft them into the military. But we'd really want them to be using steel bolts, not wood, because that's not going to do us a lot of good at all. So what I'm going to do is, if we get another craft dwarfs workshop set up there, so you can see that we're starting to make some bone bolts. So just max that out. So as I mentioned in the other video, you only get 5 bolts per bone, which is a little bit annoying, so you've really got to get going through them. But if we go up to the top, we'll see that our butchering industry started to kick in. So those elephants, obviously elephants are absolutely huge and they're quite a lot bigger than a dwarf, for example, in this game. So you're going to get a shed load of food from them, which is great. You're going to get a load of meat. You're also going to get quite a lot of bones. So if you look up here, elephant bone 56, I mean that's an absolute shed load, so that's going to give us absolutely stacks of bone bolts if we start crafting them. Or we could also make some bone crafts for trading, so that's something that we might look at as well. So that leads us quite nicely, guys, onto the second thing I wanted to talk about. I think that's it for the smithing for now. So we've got these stockpiles set up, which should help speed the process along, and then we'll have a basic set of armour and equipment for our first military dwarf, which we'll set up probably in the next video, and also some metal bolts just to give us a bit more defensive prowess if we get a siege, because we don't really want to get beaten down by a set of goblins at this stage. That would be a bit sad. So I want to talk a bit about the kitchen. So we've got this kitchen set up here. So first of all, you'll see easy, fine and lavish meal, and also render fat. So basically the kitchen will take in a number of raw ingredients and then put it into a meal, which will then have higher quality and also better chance of containing an ingredient that a dwarf really likes. So if a dwarf really likes, I don't know, steak, for example, let's say it really likes beef, any meal that's got one component in it that's beef, it will get a positive thought from. That's my understanding. So an easy meal, 2 ingredients, fine meal, 3 ingredients, lavish meal, 4 ingredients, and then when they're made, easy meals are called biscuits, fine meals are called stews, and lavish meals are called roasts. So if we want to go really British, when we get our pub set up later, we can serve ale and roast. We'll see how that goes. So I think for now, guys, we're probably just going to go with the fine meals, which is 3 ingredients. But I wanted to just, if we go into the Z screen here, so you can see our population up to 44 now, which is pretty handy, and we still haven't got the bookkeeper set up, so we're going to do that pretty shortly and finally get some better idea of what we've actually got in our fort. So if we come across to kitchen, this is the menu that determines what's going to get cooked, what's going to get brewed by the stills. So if you look along the top here, you've got vegetables, fruits, leaves, seeds, drinks, meat, fish, other. So the first thing I say is be very careful with seeds, because if you start getting these cooked you can be in a world of trouble, because basically you get to a point where you can't plant anything anymore, which is a bit of a disaster. So I wouldn't recommend that. The problem is you don't really realise, then you suddenly find you can't. It will pop up down here, farmer cancelled plump helmet, no plump helmet spawn available, I think it says, and that can really be the beginning of the end if you're not careful. So check these are all redded out over here. So you've got these, you can basically toggle them on and off, so that's cook, not cook, and then if we come to drink, it's the same. So again, you've got to be pretty careful, because if you set your kitchen to start cooking with alcohol, which to be honest doesn't sound like a bad idea because you know that the dwarves are going to enjoy it, you've just got to be a bit careful because they can absolutely shoot through that, and then next thing you know your dwarves got nothing to drink and they start dying of dehydration, which isn't ideal. And we don't have a well or anything set up as a backup at the moment, so I'm actually going to leave the booze as not cookable at the moment. And then finally, meat, fish and other. So we're actually in a really good place now. We've got, obviously not very accurate numbers, but elephant meat we've got about 100. Tallow, it says 60. So tallow I think comes from rendering fat, and from what I've read on the wiki, it seems like it's actually a really low value item, so we're actually going to disable that from cooking. And then if we come down here, we've got a whole host of different elephant organs, which is a little bit gross, depending on what you normally eat, I suppose. I don't know if I'd fancy eating an elephant intestine, although I do wonder how big that would be, because I know a human intestine's pretty long. And then at the bottom we've got 50 raw mussels, which sounds like a really good ingredient to me. So if we come back out of here, the recent set of migrants we've got a whole host of fishery workers. As you can see, they're all fishing away, which is really cool. So yes, they're all just set up on the river here, and okay, so you can see the raw mussels. That's weird, I've not seen that before, so it's actually showing the raw mussels here. I don't know if that's because they've just fished them or whether they're just getting left in a pool of elephant blood. Oh dear. So is our food stock full? Yeah, so we're probably going to need a bigger food stockpile, guys, is what that's telling me. So maybe this is full. That doesn't look that big anyway, does it? So that's definitely something. In fact, you know what, let's get that done now. So we are going to move this downstairs as soon as possible. We're basically, I'll put another row here. We're basically waiting for that irrigation system to be finished, which is taking a lot longer than I hoped, unfortunately. Sorry, so we come back to the kitchen. So we're going to be cooking all this elephant meat and also these raw mussels, which is really nice. So they'll probably catch some fish as well. And I don't know if any of you guys watch Captain Dwarf or have watched. Captain Duck. I'm sure you will have done. That's probably how I learnt to play originally, I'm pretty sure. I think he started an embark and very early on got a strange mood from one of his dwarfs who was demanding a shell. So whenever you embark, try and make sure you have a lobster or something like that, so you can get a shell, because you can come unstuck if you haven't got any fishing set up either. Right, so plump helmets, we're going to put that as, oh no, that's already on cook, sorry. So we've got over 200 of them, so that's great. And then some of this kumquats, cassavas, lettuce leaves. So this is stuff that's being gathered from above the surface. So it is worth just designating areas out to get gathered every now and then, guys. It's quite funny, we've got elephant heads, amaranth leaves. I don't know what they are, but obviously we've got a very elephant-rich area, so it seems quite fitting. Make sure none of the seeds are being cooked. We're not going to cook the drinks, and we've just disabled the tallow for now. So we'll get some fine meals going, and it's a good idea to have, let that run. It's a good idea to have a whole host of containers ready for the food. So this is going to be another Dwarfs workshop. So we've got one here, we've now got another one there which has just been completed, so we're going to add a whole load of pots. Cool. So another thing I didn't realise, I was doing some research on the wiki the other day, is that elephant meat's actually really high value. So I think up to 5 times the value of normal meat, which is which is pretty lucky for us because that's going to be one of our main sources of food, I think. And also you can actually trade the meals, which isn't something I've ever tried to do before, but apparently if you have the right meal made by an accomplished cook, which we don't have at the moment, you can actually make quite a lot of money, get quite a lot of value from them. So that's something that could be a real string in our bow. So we're seeing these stockpiles getting filled up now, which is quite cool. And then these little line things here, that would be the iron ore. Sorry, that's the charcoal. We haven't got a stockpile for the iron ore, have we? So we could do that actually. Let's quickly do that. And then we come up with Q, S, disable that, and we're on bars and blocks. Bars, metal, and we'll leave it with all at the moment. So we've got, you can see the pig iron, steel, other more rare metals like platinum, electrum. I'm not even sure what that's used for. Cool. So that should speed things up. So we are eventually going to have a massive storage area, guys, but we haven't started working on that yet, and it's going to take quite some time. Sorry guys, I'm back, the door went there. So we're just looking now, you can see that these iron bars have started being collected. Oh, so we do actually have a copper bar, which I didn't realise. Interesting. And then the other thing of note, I guess, is here is smooth schist wool. You can see up there. So this guy is actually an engraver. So he came along in one of our recent migrant waves. And the two things you can do in Dwarf Fortress is you can smooth stone, and then it looks basically like when you've built a wall, which you can see here. And you also get some graphical effect on the floor, which is quite nice. But smoothing and then detailing both use the engraving labour, which he's got enabled. So you can get to the point where they're a legendary engraver just from smoothing all the stone, but the skill has no impact on the quality of the smoothed stone. Hopefully that makes sense. And then when you engrave, the skill level does have an impact. So you're going to want to get them all trained up smoothing and then start engraving. And then when you've got really high quality engraved walls, it's really good for your dwarfs' moods and happiness levels. So I'd recommend that, guys. Right, so the last thing I wanted to speak about in this episode, and I've gone the wrong way, is this farming area. So I've expanded this storage because we need to try and clear more of this stone, but I think they're bringing it from other parts of the fort at the moment, so it's taking a lot longer than I hoped, to be honest. I don't know if this is necessarily the best approach. Maybe it's getting towards the point where I'm wondering if we just flood this. Otherwise we can dump all this stone. Okay guys, so we've got a dwarf entering a mood. So that's interesting. So that's something we're going to have to deal with. Hopefully it's going to produce something good. It's a woodcutter, which is kind of interesting. So I'll be intrigued to see what he produces. So we'll just come back down to the farm. Sorry, I was saying, so we could manually designate all this stone to be dumped, which would be a bit more efficient. But then we've got to have a dump set up, and you used to be able to just dump everything on one square, which felt a bit exploity to me. So I was trying to do it properly with stockpiles, but it is really getting to the point now where it's taking a heck of a lot longer than I hoped. But we'll stick with it. And then if you come up here, so this is where the irrigation channel is going to be. I actually had a bit of trouble with this in the end, guys. So where you can see this little mined out section, it was originally just going to be a one square pipe, vertical pipe. I've still got some designation there, you can see. So there's the pipe. I've not had trouble with it in the past. So I think if you designate out a series of vertical channels, in theory the dwarf should just be able to go from the top to the bottom without any problems, but it looks like they stopped halfway through, and then there's not a way of getting them back there. I believe that's what the problem was. So what I ended up doing was coming back to the surface and then designating a new pipe, basically, which is this down ramp, and then it alternates like that, so the dwarf can get up and down it. And then something which I don't think has ever actually happened to me, I've seen it happen quite a lot to other people, is actually my dwarf got stuck and started dehydrating to the point where I thought it was going to die, which was a bit of a pain because it was the legendary miner from the start. but eventually managed to designate out this little mining section here, and then sort of freed himself and then escaped. So I don't know what that was all about. And we've got this floodgate in place now, so we're actually all good to go on the irrigation front. The other thing I should point out, guys, I was having a bit of a look earlier, and this, what I thought was actually a series of caves, is actually just the roots from the trees coming down, which I think is quite a nice touch. So I haven't even noticed that before. So that's, we can see here, willow roots. So we're going to have to dig that out, and then we'll channel away one square here, the river will rush in, and then we've got a series of levers to control the various floodgates, and that water's going to run all the way down to here. So I don't think there should really be any impact from having this too wide. Obviously, if you think of it as like a vertical column of water that we're going to have, it's now going to be too wide, so it's going to be double the capacity of the water. But I think as long as we're fairly quick on the draw with the levers, that should be fine, really. Cool. Right, guys, I was hoping to get the bookkeeper set up in this episode, but I'm running out of time, I'm afraid. So I think I'm going to call it a day there. Hopefully we've added some more cool stuff to the fortress. We're starting to get this smoothed out. We've got some kit set up for our first military dwarf, which is nice. We've also started making some metal bolts, which is going to improve our defensive abilities if we get attacked any time in the near future before we've got things set up properly. And we've also seen that we've got a reasonably functionable metal industry and perhaps more importantly food industry, and we are getting there with the underground farm now, and the irrigation's good to go. So we are moving towards the point of being able to get everything downstairs, and we can see the entrance is getting mined out. So we've got 3 miners on the go now, which I think is going to be really important for getting things moved along in the fortress. And yeah, okay guys, so it looks like we were short on food storage, so that's something that's improved, so it's good that we noticed that. Right, I think that's it for now, guys. Have an amazing weekend, whatever you're up to, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Any comments, feedback or suggestions, welcome as always. And we picked up a couple of new subs this week, so welcome guys if you're watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. I really love playing this game and sharing it with you guys, so looking forward to hopefully hearing from a few of you. Cheers guys, bye.